Okay. Alright, what's up everybody? How we doing out there? This is Osten with the Book of Osten, Life of Detours podcast coming back at you with the Getting to Know Osten Part 2. So, just continuing on from what we did last week. Just want to give you guys a quick recap as to what we're doing here. So, basically the podcast is going to be... I want to take with the same form of like my book interviews and sit down with people and basically have us tell each other our stories and stuff like that, and like just sit down with each person, just have like little conversations, just like with the book, like just like tell our story kind of from start to finish, figuring out like how we became involved or like where they came from, things like that. And it's going to be super duper dope. We're going to get to there, but I think first what I have to do is I have to tell you guys who I am. So that's where the intro came from last week, and that's where we're going to continue on this week. So that is all coming from the book. So that's the Book of Osten. That's the one that I wrote. I did that not too long ago, about 2 years ago now, I guess. Or, well, I guess it came out about a year ago, so that's dope. But yeah. So, like it says on the cover, I'm the product of all my precisely fallen life events. So we're just kind of taking inventory and like figuring out how I ended up sitting here at this point. So just kind of telling all the little stories that kind of add up to the timeline that made it to where I'd end up right here. So that's what we're going for. So before we start, I'll give you a little recap of last week. We basically made it through like my childhood kinda, and then like going through like a few things with mom and everything, and then moving in with grandma, and then we ended up with losing my dad at the end there. So we're gonna have to kind of pick up from there and try and make things kind of jolly again. So on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and there's that. But before I start, let's go ahead and say another little thank you to Anchor, because that's the app that I'm using, and it's actually like super easy to use. It literally took me like 10 minutes to get this shit up on like Spotify. I was still having some problems with the Apple Podcasts and whatnot, but they're just a little bit more complicated, you know. Spotify's kind of where it's at. But so thank you to them, and then I never said fucking thank you to my sister Brittany for fucking getting me this mic and everything, which is making all this possible. I mean, I could have done it without, but I don't know if you've noticed, but this sounds super fucking crispy on this mic, so you're welcome. And thank you, Brittany, so that's dope. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much all there, but while you're here, while you're listening, let's go ahead and fucking, whatever app or whatever you're on, let's go ahead and give this one a like, and then just follow the podcast, because if I can get to 50 listeners, I can start, like, getting ads and whatnot on it, I believe. I'm not exactly sure how it works, because it doesn't even fucking tell you until you get 50 people, so there's that. Cheers to that. Yeah, it's like 10:30 in the morning, but I'm not telling this story without a beer. So, yeah, so, on that note, just go ahead and fucking like and like subscribe and all that stuff here. It's going up on YouTube, fucking Spotify, all that shit. So, yeah, that's how that's going. Hook it up and we'll fucking get this thing rolling, and then I'll be able to do this all the time. You guys can just listen to me bullshit, you know. Sounds cool to me, bro. I don't know if you guys are down, but I'm definitely down with it. So let's go ahead and hop right back into the story. So pretty much at this point, Dad died whenever I was 15. I was just about to turn 16. This was in 2012, April 27th, I think, of 2012, something like that. I don't really pay attention too much to the date, except for fucking whenever I get reminded on the day, you know what I mean? But so after that, everybody fucking like lost it. So everybody started like kind of going their own separate ways, dealing with things in their own ways, like all the sisters. Olivia had already graduated, I think, at this point, so she was off doing her thing. Brittany and Autumn were just about to graduate, and I was a sophomore in high school, I believe I was at the time. But at that point, kind of like my 9th grade year, I'd kind of like started messing around, just like partying a little bit, like having some people over on the weekends and like getting like a 30-pack of beer, and we have a fucking fire and all that stuff, and like it was all fun and games at first, you know. And then actually that same year, I remember we got caught for going to a party, and like half-assed. We got like in trouble with the football team or whatever, but yeah, we all got caught out at my buddy David Bunyer's house that time, and it was pretty chill. Everybody like hopping out the windows, running off in the woods, fucking, it was crazy. But so after Dad died, we kind of like I for one definitely started just drinking more. Like not so much like just like on Fridays or Saturdays every once in a while. It was like I'd just be drinking throughout the week. You know what I mean? And like I had already started smoking cigarettes at this point. I actually started smoking cigarettes at Brittany's friend Rebecca's house, the same place where I partied with Dad that time. Or well, it was a different house, but it was her house. They had a fucking cigarette rolling machine in there, and everybody was just hanging out, and like you could just fucking roll yourself a cigarette and start and smoke it, you know, if you wanted one. And I was just like, fuck it, you know, everybody's doing it. And I know that was the day that I got fucking addicted to cigarettes, actually, which is why I have this fucking weird little nicotine patch on my back, and I kind of wish I had a vape right now, but I don't have one, so fuck it. So what the fuck was I talking about? Okay, so I started drinking a little bit more. I had like a core group of friends. So it was like me, my buddy Dakota, who actually, he went through a few things and had to move back and forth from Waldron back to Mina. So he kind of like was in and out there, but I'd go and see him all the time and stuff. And then my buddy Jordan Dean, of course, was always around. And then my buddy Heath, like we kind of came back around to being like better friends. Like we'd been friends before, but he was like kind of around, you know. So I had like a core group of friends. Most of them were like from football, you know. And so after that, like we're just kind of like partying and shit and fucking just getting a little bit too crazy. I was definitely drinking a little bit too much. And then we go into kind of skip through my junior year because, well, junior year I think was the year that Mom, she got out of prison and she went back not too long after that. Or no, I think I have that mixed up. I think that's whenever she was getting out of prison, like not too long after that or something like that. I'm not exactly sure the timeline on that. But so in high school, no, she was definitely still in prison because whenever everything went down that I'm about to talk about, she wasn't there. So basically in high school, in my senior year, we had started like, we were throwing all these parties, you know, we were getting crazy, and we had this one little friend. It was me, my buddy Dakota, and Jordan Dean, and then it was our buddy Billy Dollarhide, who basically like I didn't want to be friends with because there's family connections with my dad's death and all that stuff, you know what I mean? So like I had kind of like X'd him out, but he ended up getting back into the group somehow. I think it was mostly Dakota, but like I don't fault him for it or anything like that, you know what I mean? But so it was the four of us basically, me, Dakota, Dean, and Billy, and then we were all kind of like partying, you know, fucking around and stuff, and then we had this little friend, his name was Sean, and he was adopted, and he didn't really have a lot going for him, unfortunately. He was a really small kid, and he had like real bad like ADHD, like he was fucking like all bouncy and shit, you know. He'd like cuss too much for sure, which we all fucking loved. We thought it was hilarious, but he could kind of rub people the wrong way, I guess, unfortunately. But like we loved him, we kept him around. We'd sneak him into the fucking field house in the mornings and after school and stuff, and like he'd hang out with us all the time. And the only thing that he ever wanted to do was just go to one of our parties. So he was always talking about it, but he could never get out of the house. Like every day he had to go home, and like I think he was in bed at like 8:30 or 9 or something like that at his mom's boyfriend's request. He had a cell phone, but they'd take it away from him whenever he'd get home, so he could only have it at school or something like that. So it was just kind of like a weird situation for this poor kid, dude. Like he didn't have a lot of friends, and also his home life kind of super sucked. And so all we wanted to do was get him to a party, you know what I mean? So sometime in my the first semester of my senior year, we threw this big ass party out at at Rosie's, actually, at the alpaca farm. She had built on the other side from the alpaca farm. She'd built these like vacation homes or whatever, and one of them was this big ass castle. So we rented the castle out for the night, and fucking we threw down a freaking banger, bro. Like basically we tried to pick up a keg, which apparently is super hard to do if you're in a dry county and you're trying to fucking find a place to get it filled up. So we didn't end up getting that to happen, but we ended up getting like just as much beer as we could. We roll up, and we're setting up the fucking, it's like a legit, like it's built like a castle. It has like the ramparts and shit, and like the up top is like spot you can go, and like we basically turned that into the smoking section. There were fucking knights, like armored knights, like posted up and shit, and like there were swords everywhere and shit, which we put up all except for one, which I carried throughout pretty much the whole party. So I showed up to, we basically went to go pick everybody up because not everybody knew where it was. So we went to the high school, and fucking, I show up, and there's just like, I'm saying like 10, 15 cars probably, all full with like 4 or 5 people. And I show up to the fucking high school parking lot. I fucking get out with the sword, and I'm like, fucking, let's go, dude. And we fucking all roll out. There's like a caravan of people going out to this party. And so we started out with like, I'd say like 20, 30 people at the most, like at the beginning. And I mean, that was like kind of crazy because the place wasn't huge, but it had a lot of land. So like people were able to go outside, and like there was plenty of room for everybody. But we had enough beer. I'll tell you that for damn sure. We had enough beer, and there was alcohol everywhere. But fucking at a certain point, like the party just kept growing and growing, and like the whole place was just surrounded by people. Like there was probably like, I want to say there was like well over 50, like coming up on 100 people probably, and like there was like an old couple there that had heard about it on fucking I think they said Craigslist or something. A couple of people had found out about it just being at Walmart or something like that, and like it just ended up being a fucking crazy party. There's more about it in the book. I might talk about it later on, but I kind of gotta brush past it to get onto a bigger story. But yeah, fucking crazy night. So we come back to school the day, or like the week after that, and fucking we're talking to Sean about it, dude, and like he's just like, dude, I fucking wish I could be there and all this stuff, man. And like he's like, one of these times I'm gonna get to go to a party like that, and we're all gonna have a fucking great time. We're like, dude, yeah, anytime that you can fucking get out of that house, we'll fucking party with you, right? And it's only a couple of weeks later, he comes to school, and he's telling us this crazy story, right? So he's sitting in his mom's boyfriend's truck. His mom's boyfriend is super sketchy fucking old dude, super fucking mean to him, first off, but he like calls people from private numbers. Nobody really knows who he is or where he came from, honestly. And so Sean's sitting in his fucking truck, and they're about to go to town, and he drops something behind the seat, and he goes to reach back there, right? And there's these Walmart bags, apparently. Like there's like 6 of these Walmart bags back there, and he reaches into one, and he pulls out a fucking bank envelope, and it's just full of just random bills, like just a shit ton of money in just this one envelope, and like the whole bag is filled with envelopes. And he looks back there, and there's 6 of these bags, and they're all full of the same shit. And so he's like, okay, that's fucking weird. He puts it back, and he comes to school, and he's telling us about it. We're like, dude, we don't fucking believe you. Like, obviously, that can't be true, right? And so he was like, dude, I'll fucking prove it. And like the next couple of days go by, and he comes to school one day with a fucking envelope, and there's like, I remember there was like $5,000 in it or something like that. And he like we fucking all split it up together, and fucking like basically just kind of started like spending money here and there, you know, buying a couple of things that we wanted, and we were just spending money out of town. So like we would go sometimes like right after school, we'd leave, and we'd fucking go up to Hot Springs or like Fort Smith or something. We'd go to the mall, and like I bought myself like a few things. Like I had like a really nice like jacket and like some new shoes and stuff like that, which I'd never really, you know, it was like top of the line shit, you know what I mean? I'd never really gotten that opportunity, so I fucking bought that shit. Bought myself a laptop with it because I knew I was gonna fucking need one at some point, and like that was really cool. And then after that, Sean basically like for the next couple of weeks, like every like week or so, he would go in and he'd get another one of the envelopes, and like they were all different amounts every time that he would go in there. And like so the first time was like 5,000, and then like the second time was like 8, and then there was one that was like 11, and then one that was only like 4, and like a 2,500 or something like that. So this was all like in like going through like November, December of 2013, I think it is. And so fucking he's just bringing these to school. We're kind of like stacking up money here and there, but we're also kind of like blowing it. But like I'm spending all my money out of town. We had all these plans of like just make sure like you're not fucking like showing it off in town and like being stupid with it, because like we can't explain where this fucking money came from. If anybody asks any questions, we're gonna have to fucking like we're gonna be in a lot of trouble. But so what we found out, or somebody had told us, I don't know where this fucking rumor came from, but there had been a bank robbery in Cove, Arkansas, apparently, which is only like 15 miles away from fucking Mena. And we had convinced ourselves that this dude had robbed that bank. And it kind of made sense because it was the First National Bank envelopes that they were in. It was First National Bank that had been hit at the time, and fucking we, like, honestly, like, we were just fucking little kids, you know, and fucking somebody had presented us with this money, and we were kind of just looking to justify it. But, like, first off, the dude was a dick. Second off, we were pretty sure the money was stolen, and third off, the money was basically just being given to us. So, like, I mean, it was really hard to say no, man. Like, I mean, I know, like, looking at it now, like, the stealing part of it was bad and shit, but, like, I'd never seen that kind of money. And fucking, it was just like a weird situation. So we kind of went with it and rolled with it, you know, and it was fucking crazy. So later on, at a certain point, Sean is talking to his, like, sister, like his, I guess his adopted sister or whatever, and she's already moved out of the house, but she had come back and she'd been hanging out for a little bit, and she basically told him, like, she knew about the money and she was gonna fucking clean the place out and she was gonna dip out. And so Sean comes to school and he's like, hey guys, like, my sister, she just told me this shit. If we want to get some of that money, we're gonna have to do it now. And once she takes it, then we'll be fucking scot-free because, you know, she'll have left with the money and they'll only be looking for her. So we came up with all these plans and all this shit, and let's just say things weren't like I came up with, like, the perfect plan. We'd roll out there, right? There's like 5 or 6 bags, take a little bit out of each one. No one ever knows that a little bit's missing out of each one. And fucking then we just kind of lay low with it, you know what I mean? I'll take it, hide it. I had a plan to, like, put it underneath my bridge and shit like that, like all these different little plans and shit like that. And so we go to roll out there, and first off, Billy dips out on us, like, fucking immediately. And it's me, Dakota, and Dean roll out there. We fucking creep up on the house, like, it was like fucking, like, you know, like spy movie, fucking creeping up. There's like a floodlight comes on, fucking scares the shit out of everybody, you know, and like we all like chill out, and then we fucking get to the truck, and like I'm sitting there looking at the fucking bags. I'm like, okay, what do we need to do to get these open, like, you know, without anybody seeing and shit? And then fucking Dakota's big ass just fucking grabs one of the bags, takes off running through this fucking guy's garden with size 14 fucking J's on, and fucking runs all the way back to the car, which is like a half mile away, and we fucking run back up there, and basically at that point we just knew that we were fucked. So we're like, we just gotta go home, fucking deal with this money however we can. At this point we gotta roll with what's happened because it's already fucking happened. So we go to the house, spend all fucking night counting this fucking bag out. There's like well over $100,000 in there. I think I don't remember the exact figure, but I know it was over 100. It was like 120 something thousand. And apparently whenever the cops, now that I've kind of looked into it a little bit more, and my buddy Nick is actually working on a documentary for it and stuff like that, but the cops reported, just from what they found, was 88,000 or something like that, I think it was, or 78,000 or something like that. And let's just say there was money missing, like, here and there, you know what I mean? I ended up with just a little bit of it, you know, which I actually ended up giving to Grandma once everything kind of went downhill. But so we fucking divided up. I keep mine, Dean's, and Sean's shares at the house because Dean didn't want to take his, or Jordan Dean, he didn't want to take his with him. Sean wasn't there to get his. Dakota wanted to take his, and he wanted to take Billy's because we still decided we were gonna give Billy a little bit, you know, because he had been in the whole situation. So we were gonna give him like $7,000 or some shit, you know what I mean? So Dakota takes off with his and Billy's parts, and fucking, I guess he goes and like does a few things with it and whatnot, kind of in the meantime. And before I can do anything, this is like fucking 6 in the morning. We have to go to fucking school that next day. So I basically take the money, I put it in this fucking lockbox, and I bury it in the bottom of my fucking closet. And yeah, so I kind of forget about it, and like I'm just like, okay, it's hidden, you know what I mean? Like, let's just go about our business kind of regular, you know what I mean? And then the next day, Billy is hitting everybody up, and he's like, hey, does anybody want to go to fucking Hot Springs with me? And nobody was able to go, and I was like, fuck it, I'll go with you, you know what I mean? So we ended up rolling with him and like our buddy Bradley and shit like that, and we went up to Hot Springs, and we spent a couple hours up there. We're headed home, and it's not terribly late. It's like 7 or 8 at night, you know what I mean? Nothing crazy, and my fucking grandma starts calling me a whole bunch, and like I'm like tripping out, like, why the fuck is she calling so much? Like, she's just gonna call and bitch at me basically because I'm not home right now, and so I don't fucking answer the phone. And she calls me probably like 10 or 12 times before I get home, but I was like 15, 20 minutes away. So I was like, dude, I'm just going to fucking, just kind of make it there, deal with it whenever I get there. You know what I mean? And so I show up, back of the house. Grandma's in the fucking living room with Autumn and Brittany. I think it was Autumn and Brittany. And she's got a bottle of vodka out, and they're all just fucking sitting there taking drinks. And I walk in, and Grandma tells me this whole story about how the cops had showed up, told her that there was something going on, and she didn't fucking believe them, so she wasn't even going to let him in the house. But they ended up in the house, and they're like, we need to check his room, and she wouldn't let him in my room. Apparently, they stood there for like an hour just giving her hell, telling her all this bullshit. And she eventually fucking let him in my room. And I guess one of the sisters was like, I'm not going to have you fucking just tear up this room. So they just fucking showed him where it was, and they fucking take the money. Grandma's like asking them to fucking count it there so that she knows what I'm getting in trouble for, and they like refuse, and they fucking take the money and they leave. And so whenever I get home, she's telling me all this shit, so I just fucking give me just a second, dude. Come on. Get in there if you're gonna go. Stupid cat, shut up. Making all that fucking noise. Okay. So, where the fuck was I? Sorry, dude, my cat was over there fucking tearing shit up, driving me crazy. So I show up, Grandma tells me all this stuff, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna have to go and turn myself in, basically. So I leave the house, I drive up to the fucking, to the whatever the fuck, to the courthouse, and, I go in, they run my fingerprints and all that bullshit, and then they sit me down, they're like reading me my rights, and they're like, hey, we're gonna ask you a few questions. And I was like, oh, I just want my fucking lawyer, I'm going home, I'm already bailed out, or whatever, and fucking, like I just tell them I just want my lawyer, and they don't ask me any questions, they just send me on my way, basically. And so I go to leave there, and actually before I went to the courthouse, I actually stopped by Billy's house. And I told him, I was like, hey, the cops have already busted Dakota. And before I fucking left for that, I didn't tell you guys that. I fucking tried to call Dakota, tried to call Dean. Nobody was answering the phone, so I already knew that shit was up. That's why I ended up just deciding to turn myself in. So before I go to the fucking courthouse, I stop by Billy's house, and I'm like, hey, all this shit's going down. Basically, just give me whatever money that you have left, because they're going to fucking search the house, and they're going to get that shit. And so he gives me what he had left, which was like 5,000 something or whatever the fucking. So I take that. I put that away, and fucking that's whenever I go turn myself in, and like they fucking try to ask me questions and shit, and then I end up just going home. And so fucking cat. So motherfucker, dude, shut up. Damn it, where was I? Yeah, so I stopped by, got the money from him, turned myself in, went home, fucking didn't sleep at all that night. And then basically end up just talking to Grandma the next day, and I fucking give her that little bit of money that Billy had given me, because I had talked to Dean, and Billy fucking ratted on us all like straight up immediately. So I was like, fuck that, I'm just gonna keep this, and I fucking gave it to Grandma. Basically like told her it was like for buying my car or whatever, and like I got my car from her and shit, and yeah, so turns out Sean had gotten picked up first. So Sean got in trouble, or like the guy basically like confronted Sean and was like, I know you fucking did it and all this stuff. And then Sean got arrested, got taken down to the fucking court, and or taken down to the courthouse. They started asking him questions, fucking threatening him with jail time and all this stuff. So he basically told them the whole fucking story. And then they got a hold of, I don't know if it was Dean or Dakota first, but they found Dakota with, they had his money. They found Dean. He didn't have anything but like a few $100s that he had left from all the other stuff. Dean gets bailed out immediately. Dakota, I think, actually spent a couple of days in jail. And I actually went and used a little bit of that money that I got from Billy to bail Sean out, because nobody was going to fucking bail him out. And I wasn't just going to leave him up there. So I bailed him out. He ended up getting to go home. And so, yeah. That was the fucking crazy part of that story. And then after that, basically it took like 6 months for us to go to court. I got kicked off the fucking soccer team, kinda. So basically, coach told me that he wanted to kick me off the team, but I was one of the best players that we had, so he needed me to kind of help everybody practice, and I still wanted to be on the team, so I told them I would do it. But so basically the stipulation was I could practice every day, but I couldn't play in any of the games. So I could go to all the games, and I could kind of like coach a little bit, I guess you would call it, just kind of yelling from the fucking sidelines, as my team lost every fucking game that year, just about, while I sat on the fucking sidelines and practiced with them every day, which that sucked super huge dicks, bro. That was horrible. But I mean, that's what you fucking get for fucking around, I guess. So yeah, and so kind of in that time, I was drinking a little bit heavier, you know. I was skipping school plenty, you know what I mean? I guess like right after that, coach told me, he was like, yeah, you don't really even have to come to first period. Football season's over. I didn't play basketball. Fucking soccer was only an after school sport. So the first period class, I wasn't going to be fucking doing anything anyways. So it's basically like, you don't really have to come. Second period, I think, was orientation to teaching, which that teacher was a fucking dipshit. And then after school, after lunch, we had radio and TV, which is our college class. And so we started going to, I went to that most of the time because they actually had like requirements, you know, for your attendance, which sucked. But, you know, it was a pretty cool class anyways. But so fucking ended up graduating. I'm still waiting to go to court, and fucking they have us on 2 counts. So felony breaking and entering, and then theft of property of over $25,000. And so I go to court. Dakota goes to court first. He gets fucking destroyed with fines and shit because he had a horrible lawyer. It didn't even fucking try. They just went and like took basically the first fucking plea deal that they gave him. Dean's lawyer did a little bit better, and then my lawyer, Mike Hamby, who's a fucking badass dude, he kind of hooked me up. I still got 4 years of probation, like 1,500 or like 12 to 1,500 in fines, and then we all had a split restitution, which I think Dakota and Dean basically paid because I wasn't able to pay on it, but they just wanted to kind of get out from under it. So that got paid off pretty quick. I think Dean did most of that, really. But so, yeah, so we ended up doing that. I'm on probation for 4 years, and then I'm going to college, and I kind of like have this big falling out with grandma and stuff because I'd been drinking too much, just kind of being mean to everybody. Started hanging out with my buddy Heath all the time, and we'd just go out to fucking 2 Mile, and like we'd just bring some beers and like talk about all the shit, you know, because I wasn't able to hang out with Dakota or Dean or anybody anymore because we were all in trouble together. Their parents had forbid it. The fucking cops, basically. I think there was like like if you get caught in the same crime, you're not supposed to hang out or whatever the fuck. So, yeah, there's that. So there's that story. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm coming up on the 30-minute mark, so I'm gonna take a break for just a second. But yeah, so that kind of leads up to me going through high school. So played football, was partying the whole time, you know what I mean? And then all of this shit goes down. I fucking lose all my friends. I end up having my one friend, Heath, like going into whenever I go to leave for college and stuff. And then have this big falling out with grandma because I'm just being a fucking little shit, basically. Just fucking drinking all the time and yelling at everybody. And so she kicks me out of the house right before I go to college. And then that's whenever I start like putting shit together to leave Mina to go to Conway, where I had ended up going to school, which, yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and log off here for just a second, and then I'll fucking pick this back up here in just a minute, okay? All right, bye, guys. You shut the fuck up. I'm in the middle of something here. Stupid fucking cat. Come here. Come here. Come on. I'm not playing. I'm very serious right now. Come on. It's okay, Kitty. I'm not gonna hurt you, buddy. I'm not. It's okay. Come on. Come on, Kitty. Come on. Come on, kitty cat. Okay. Oh shit, I forgot about this one.